Hi guys, it's me, it's Sirken. It's Monday night. I'm very happy you guys could join us on this fine evening. I think I'm gonna minimize this because I don't need it anymore. Boom. Let me know if volumes are good or not because I don't know. Using a different thing, it could be all screwed up. It might be fine. I don't know. But you guys, you're my guinea pigs this fine evening. Um, oh, I thought they'd be able to hear me. They're not gonna be able to hear shit. You know why? Because I'm using a thing with push to talk, and I'm not pushing to talk. I hate it already. I already hate it, but that's okay. We're gonna push on. Braknar and Raev are both here. That's right, right? I always say your name is Raev. I don't know. I don't even care if that's incorrect. It won't change. But is it correct?
That correct.
All right, I'll take it. Um, and hi, Raev. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for being here. You, you're a very special boy. Not so much this evening. Well, no, this evening too. But you were super special Halloween, and so that's why you're joining us on this fine, fine evening. In case there's people here who have no idea who you are, do me a favor and say hi and tell them who you are.
Um, Hi, I play Monk on Project 1999 and a few other tunes. I've been playing here for far too long. I guess it's like 4 or 5 years by now. And I managed to get lucky and win the Halloween event, mostly with the help of a lot of really smart people in my group.
I feel like it was probably more than just luck on this particular event, just because there's a lot of people that didn't get lucky and gave up or just couldn't figure it out. And so
Well,
shut up. And so we also have the wonderful Braknar this evening, who was the essentially the mastermind behind the Halloween event. If any of you guys took part in that, you can thank him, or you can throw shit at him if you had a horrible time. But he's the person to blame either way. So and you too, Braknar. In case there's people here who have no idea who you are, tell them.
Sure, I'm Braknar. I'm staff here on the server. Been around now year and a quarter, year and a half as staff. But yeah, like you said, I did the Halloween event. Believe it or not, I had probably as much fun watching people do it as folks had. It sounds like folks had running it.
How long did you put into that?
Oh goddamn! I really should have legitimately clocked my hours. Um,
It's probably
it was a
better
lot.
that you didn't.
It's probably better that I didn't. I started it on September 1st. So yeah, it was a blank screen until September 1st, and from then on, it was few hours at night. Sometimes other nights I needed to do something else. So it was, I'd say, about double the effort that I put in last year.
Well, I don't know. I didn't partake in the event, but I saw it, and I mean, I think it was definitely noticeable that more work went into this one than probably any previous Halloween event we've had.
Well, that's good.
I mean, I know things didn't work as absolutely perfectly as we were hoping they would work at every step of the way, but I don't know. For the most part, I thought it went pretty well. I thought it was a success. I thought more people had fun than didn't have fun.
It seems like it. I've been I mean, as some have noticed, I've been active in some threads on the forum, so I've definitely been watching and seeing the opinions and feedback. And so far, I've seen a lot more positive than negative.
That's good. You're never, ever, ever going to be able to please everybody when you're dealing with any kind of number of people. And so, I mean, that's important to remember. I definitely, when I do something that gets a lot of opinions, I definitely will read the shitty ones just in case there's some actual, like, constructive criticism that I can use to make better in the future. But the good ones definitely feel good. There was that one thread that was linked in staff chat talking about, like, hey, you know what? This place is great and you guys are great. Good job. And like, I love seeing shit like that.
Sorry, I missed the last sentence you said.
That's okay. It's because you're a horrible person.
I know. I was getting the update uh, for my wife, but what were you saying?
Basically, it feels good when you see fucking
Yes.
threads like that one you linked in the staff channel.
Yeah. Absolutely. The one that was talking about, just share your good experiences with it. So no, for sure, that was great. I got a lot of PMs on the forums that were also positive and thanking me for the time we put into it. So no, yeah, it was overall a very positive experience. I'd love to be able to say I'm going to crank out more, but the amount of effort that I mean, I will put out more, but I can't say when. I would love to do one for the holiday season coming up, but realistically, will it happen? Hard to say.
All right.
I mean, right? I had one sort of planned for last year. I started writing it out, and then it just never happened. So, will I be able to finish it this year? I'll
last
try.
last Halloween, I actually wasn't on. I wasn't around for the event. I wasn't able to be home, so I honestly have no idea how last year's event went, other than hearing about it afterwards. Um,
Yeah, it was. Well, it was the first one I'd ever done. It was the first one P99 had done in a long time, a first scripted event like this. And so I didn't have a good idea of like what I mean. Really, it was a lot of like I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm going to try to do it. So I really meant it last year. I elicited lots of feedback. I tried to ask lots of people, be honest, tell me what you thought, and I'd like to think that I proved that I did listen to them because we one of the biggest complaints from last year was it was up too short. It was only alive for like 3 hours last year. Another complaint was the loot, which, well, I would have to admit, because after I started looking at the loot table for it, it was not that great. I mean, you could argue,
yes,
it was really bad. Um, and a lot of people hated how some of the NPCs just ported you around, which I'll agree that was a little too much. So I mean, obviously we didn't do that at all this year. Like there were none that ported you. There were some that shadow stepped you, but that's it.
I
Um,
think anything that and has a chance of porting you to like Kira Island is just fantastic, or Tox, or just anywhere in the Otis area.
for Surefolk
Fantastic.
Blade, that's where I was throwing people. I thought that was the worst.
That's just mean.
It is mean, and so that's like I had to agree. I think that was some of the criticism last year. The folks were saying
You
there is
send a
just like that's
troll
just
to
plain mean.
fucking Surefall Glade.
Oh my god.
That's just mean.
So yeah. It went very much. It went much better this year. Uh, yeah.
I
What's that?
I want to say one thing you did that I thought was fucking really great was the book, the whole book thing. People
Oh,
tried turning it in, which was retarded, but I thought using the book instead of just having all of that in like chat text was super super smart. And I know Raev has, because I talked to him about this a little afterwards, but he was saying that the chat spam was fucking horrible when people
yeah.
were there.
Well, yeah. And that's a thing. It's just going to be a thing, right? Like chat spam. I've talked to people, and I think there's a way we can sort of shim in a way for NPCs to put direct messages on people's clients.
Yeah,
But in all honesty, that is not classic. Like classic EverQuest just never did that.
no, it's not classic at all. So
So
hold on, Rave. I need. So you're a player. You're minding your business in the world. You get these world emotes. Tell me things. Tell me point of view, like how this event was through a player's eyes.
Well, we figured out that it was North Carolina, and then we got the book, and we had the clues, and we started going through them. Um,
Were they hard? Were they easy? Were they just right? Would Goldilocks have been pleased? Like, how do you feel about those?
um, I thought they were pretty close to about right. I mean, it would have been possible to be like, complete dicks, like when you have the mobs that aren't trackable and you can put them anywhere in the zone. But mostly they weren't that hard to do, and the clues were pretty reasonable. I mean, some people made mistakes, but like once we got like through a few of them, we realized they were mostly the kale one was definitely hard. Um,
well, that was also my fault. Apparently, like I totally effed up the lore there. Like for
Good
whatever
job.
reason, in my brain, I'm like, right, Ice Clad Kale, that's gonna have to be in the north, but it's not. So, oops.
Oops.
but yeah,
Uh,
most of the weren't too bad. And the thing is, like, you got to work in a group, right? So like my key thing was that I got a pretty good group together, right? So I had my planning going. So I mean, I wasn't by any means like the most productive member of this group. It's just I happened to be the one to win because everyone else turned in early due to the aforementioned chat spam. But like a lot of the other people in my group were, solving more clues than I were.
So wait, are you actually telling us that you don't deserve to be any kind of special first place winner?
Pretty much, yeah.
All right, I'm gonna log on and take away your reward.
One thing and that's another interesting thing to note. So with this event is, I added lots and lots of logging to it. Like Sirken can attest to it. Like while the event was unfolding, we could see pretty clearly how things were going. Who was turning in, where they get. We have event logs of when the ice comet guy kills people. We have event logs for when the one of the dot guys kills people. I think both of them actually would log it. So anyway, we saw some pretty cool stuff about that. Here's a question for you guys, Raev. Like, had your group figured out anything about the missing part until that emote went out about the list?
Well, we went back once we finished the 12. We went back to like kind of see if that was it. Not too optimistically, just because you have to kind of track these things. And we're like, well, the obvious place to go is Plane of Fear. So we went to the Plane of Fear and we found something, and we're like, what the hell, right? And then actually someone else told us that they had heard the text for this guy, and so we triggered him, and then we got 4 more clues.
So teamwork. I actually remember chatting with Braknar, like, if anyone was going to find this goddamn thing outside the Feyright, in the Feyright outside Fear, and literally as we were talking about it, people ported into Fey.
I mean, come on, right? It's the obvious place to look, right? The Plane of Fear. Probably.
Yeah, well, it's the obvious place to look, but it's clearly not the obvious place to like pay attention to what the NPC is actually saying. That was the biggest problem I noticed, was that people were saying the wrong shit to him because they weren't talking to the fearmongers.
Right. So again, we got that clue from someone else. I think it was in the guild. But I mean,
teamwork.
We were very much working as a team. Like, I mean, I solved a few clues myself, but a lot of other people were solving more. And of course, I had stacked the deck earlier by giving myself a wizard and a bard, so we were moving around really fast.
Yeah, I mean, I got a lot of the complaints that, this favors porters. I mean, I would kind of disagree on this one. Sure, it
literally
favors them,
anything in
literally
more than
anything.
one zone favors porters. That's classic EverQuest. If something involves more than one zone, having a bard and a goddamn porting class is going to give you an advantage. Either do that too, or just don't complain. Just don't even log on. Just stay home and watch fucking reality TV and don't even think about EverQuest that night. Real quick, Retro Shoddy. If you're Shoddy from Trance on VZTZ, I love you, and I do have plans to check out Pantheon, but definitely not on that name. And Keister, I don't know when that's going to be a thing. I don't even know if that is a thing. Cap 5, I'm happy to, but thanks for being here. Omni people get to TOV. And Boob. Boob is here. You guys don't know Boob, but I play Rust with him. I love him. He's literally one of my favorite people in the world.
Awesome.
One of the things that did occur to me is you could consider, those illusions you had, and you could consider them giving them some sort of, mild movement speed buff, so at least you got so speed.
Well, except those illusions are just modifying race. Like, if you notice, there was no spell.
I did wonder what was actually happening.
I mean, we probably could tie it to a spell. But yeah, what's actually... So yeah, that's a good little segue. We used that code last year, and what's actually happening behind the scenes
I can talk over
we're
them,
controlling it. We did a lot. I did a lot with faction.
Try not to listen to them.
So what was happening was,
they're stupid.
As soon as you talk to the
but what's up,
Monger,
Sereno?
you
What's
effectively,
up,
air quotes, started
what's
the
up,
quest.
Burrito?
He did a dice roll, and there was like 5 or 6 different illusions, 2 of which were more rare than the others. And so then he would set a special faction to be the value of the race that illusion is. And then there was code that would fire every time you zone or die that read that faction and just made you that faction and made your race that faction. So that's how they get preserved on zone.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah. And so the other cool part about the event was everything, all the zone emotes, world emotes, everything except the one they hinted at to talk to the fearmonger about the list. All of that was completely automated. Sirken and I didn't actually fire those off. That was all just one single command that Rogan ran. That basically the one command spawned all the mobs, and one of the mobs' spawn script made all that stuff happen.
Yeah, that was my favorite part.
Yeah, like so that was the best thing. Like Sirken and I were completely free to deal with problems. Like no, we weren't on a schedule to make sure things kept moving along. The event literally ran itself. Like we could have not been online so long as people weren't like going into death loops, which happened. And we'll see what we can do to prevent that from happening in the future. You know, stuff like that. You know, so long as there weren't actual problems, it would have just run all by itself.
Yeah, the death looping was definitely an unforeseen issue.
You know, I don't remember that from last year, but we also did not have the illusions up nearly as long. Last year, you got the illusion as you handed in. But then the illusions went away when we turned the event off. So like realistically, people were like, they didn't have the illusions very long at all. And I've told Sirken this, but I'll mention it here because it's hilarious. I still don't know how this happened, but last year, one person got the illusion of the boat. So there is a boat illusion that turns people into a boat that makes them completely immobile unless they're in water.
That's great.
And every time this poor guy zoned, he became a boat again. And I, I don't know how. The only thing I can think of is when the NPCs modify faction, they always do it as a change. So you give it the faction ID and a positive number or negative number, and it just changes. It isn't hard to set it. And the only way we're getting it hard set is just everybody starts with it at 0. So I'm guessing if he spammed the turn in say trigger, that if it somehow fired twice and combined 2 dice rolls for his illusion faction, is my only guess. But yeah, it was really weird, and I felt really bad for that guy.
I mean, we used to turn people in the moat in Karner's Castle into boats, and then people could boat around, and you'd always have people jump off the top of the goddamn castle and try to land in the boat as it was rowing on by. It was a good time.
Yeah, the illusions always are.
Were you part of either of the boss fights?
Yeah, I was on the one for North Carolina.
I'll get Braknar in a second to talk about what he can in regards to how that should have been. But player POV, like, how'd you feel about it? How'd it go?
I think people were just tired after the scavenger hunt. So it was kind of frustrating to me because, I finished first. I was like, okay, there's the boss. Let's go fuck it up, right? Pixels, pixels! Right, but then, of course, everyone was just tired and, like, there seemed to be really little interest. And, of course, you have some random, imp sitting there. You have no idea how hard it is, right? And it was pretty funny watching him just flatten people.
He was no pushover.
He was definitely not easy, and the fear was, of course, I think Dragon Fear is overtuned on this server, at least for the Middle East Dragons. And of course, he had that, so that was not a lot of fun. Especially some random tool would always go up and jab him, and then he'd do the fear, and everyone would just scatter. So it was pretty funny.
I'm gonna tell you, from a GM point of view, there is nothing in the world better than fucking seeing 150 players get hit with Dragon Roar.
It's
that
pretty
was
funny.
Hilarious.
And my understanding is that Awaken killed the one in Lesser Feydark without too much trouble, but the North Karana one had more people there somehow.
So, about that. We did have to make a live change to some of the boss scripts. In that change, I think it broke some of the ads that were going to be generated from the LFA one. because I was actually there in Elfay that entire fight, and I'm like, Sirken was there. He probably heard me. I'm like, what the hell? Where are these? Where are the ads? And so like some of the ads just didn't spawn, so that made the Elfay one easier. For one, for two, the desyncs was not a big of an issue because there's only 160 in zone, and I think we have 260 on the NK kill. Plus, people in NK while I was there were like full of dumb because they were just like hiding the ads, making the desync problem worse.
So, can you talk about how there almost, or I'm not going to say there almost wasn't one, but how there wasn't a guarantee that there would be a boss fight?
Oh, about like who helped and how that all panned out.
Like what had to actually happen for the boss to spawn?
Oh, oh yeah, man, good call. I hadn't even thought about that.
Yeah, see, I
So
got your back on that.
yeah, so behind the scenes here, some more interesting visibility into the event. So another, like I said, we used a lot of people figured out that I was using faction. I already talked to a few people about it. So another way I used faction in this event, like if you noticed, you couldn't talk to the same guy multiple times. Like he would say, "I've seen you before," and he did that. We did that through faction. And also, what we were doing, we had another faction that tracked how many NPCs you found. And so the one that tracked the NPCs you found, that faction got incremented by 100 for every NPC you find. So if you finished with all of them, you'd have a faction of 1600. When you turned in the NPC, when the fearmonger read in however much faction you had at the time and added that to an accumulator value. At various thresholds, various things happened. So like the first threshold I want to say was 32,000, which meant
Again, I can talk right over these people because
God
they
damn it,
can't
I'm
hear
gonna
me
have
unless
math.
I push buttons.
20 people would have
I
had
don't
to
have
turn
to
in the
wait.
1600
Hi, Baven. Hi, Envy. Hi, See
before
Much,
it's
Hear
triggered,
Much.
and that was stage one.
I
So
was
there was
waiting for an
3 different
opportunity
stages
to
that went
cut
on.
in and be like,
And I think in
hello!
hindsight, I'll have to have
But
the stage transition emotes go out
I
worldwide.
realized I don't
I
have
just had
to.
them
I
going
just
out
can
in the
talk
zone
louder than them,
themselves, and so there were
and they won't
zone
know,
emotes
but
that were
hopefully you'll still
firing
hear
as these
your own
thresholds of the
name being
accumulator got hit,
said through the
showing how close we were to a boss
fuckery of
spawn.
sound that you're probably hearing as I talk over
And
them.
the zone emotes hinted that like something was coming. But again, that's why I was saying earlier that I don't really think anybody noticed those. So next time if I do something like this, I'll make sure it's more of like a global announcement versus like worldwide announcement versus just in that singular zone. Chad is saying there's double audio.
There shouldn't be.
Someone just said, "What's up with the double audio?" I don't know what they're talking about.
There shouldn't be because my stream is super muted, so I don't know why there would be double audio.
Yeah, I don't know. At any rate,
I just double checked. I think they're crazy. I don't know what to tell you.
It could be crazy. So yeah, that's the faction, and that's kind of what Sirken was meaning. So in theory, and I kind of just picked the numbers out of thin air. Both zones did build in they kept their own accumulators. So I'm pretty sure we had a boss spawn in NK first by quite a while, and then the Elfay one spawned later. But we also had a plan that potentially people could potentially have failed the boss fight. Originally, I was planning to have him, and he does. All the bosses did indeed count how many people they killed. And originally, I was going to have it such that after the boss killed X amount of people, it just basically shouted, "I've collected all the souls I need." Then it would despawn. At the end, we decided that we weren't sure, because if an entire raid force came and they really effed it up, then that might add too many deaths, blah, blah, blah. So what we ended up doing is just have them keep track of the deaths. And every 25 deaths, it would announce to the current staff online, I've killed 25, 50, 75 people. And we were going to just make the by hand call. Do we fail this boss out or not? And if we decided to fail the boss out, I also had a controller NPC that sat in our CS home zone that myself or Sirken could walk up to, say a special say trigger that would then send the boss a message that made it shout, "I've gathered enough souls." It would despawn, and there we are. We were done. We didn't get to that point because people were legitimately trying. They were sort of making progress on the boss, so we chose not to despawn either of them.
Yeah, from a player's perspective, it was kind of interesting to see like what happens when you're actually faced with something unknown because everything in here we know roughly how tough it is, how many hit points it has. Whereas this, we were like just trying to figure it out.
Hey, Hoot. How
And
about
so, like,
that
first, you're like, can we
fire?
do this with 20? Probably the answer was no.
Oh yeah, yeah. You Nilbog for the most part wrote that boss script, and I really, really, really like how what he did in it. And so if I end up doing more bosses for events, I'm not gonna do exactly that, but he's given me a bunch of ideas. We had some unfinished ideas that we wanted to do in that boss that we just never could make work. So I'll keep those to myself for now because we might use them again later. But it would have been really cool.
So, as long as I have you guys here, the server has, always been, classic EverQuest, but we're getting pretty darn close to the classic EverQuest end, right? I mean, we've got
Hey,
Chardon.
hey. You still are waiting on Stonebrun Mountain, sir. There is still classic content to come at you.
Oh, and then Shardock, right? But once those two things, and of course, we really need the October 2001 patch that makes my monk 25% more better in terms of damage.
More better.
More better, damn straight. We need both of
Okay.
those. But the point is, like, do you guys really have any serious plans for, going beyond that?
We have
I
real
mean,
serious plans not to do Luckland.
yeah. Well, and those questions are really more for Nilbog than us. What I can say is I've seen him talk a lot about something else after that. What it is, even we don't know. But I've seen talk about it. I've seen interest in it. So
There's definitely people with desire to keep working on the project.
yes,
I mean, if you guys don't want to do Luckland, that's obviously, or by the way, I'm told that's a big pronunciation battle. Is it Luslin or Luckland? I'm a Luckland guy.
No, it's definitely Luckland.
But, I mean, I just think, like, there's all sorts of creative stuff you could do with content, and you could, if you didn't like doing that, you could try pulling in raid zones from like, way further in the expansion. There's graphics, there's, and potentially all sorts of really cool stuff could happen. And I think the funny thing is, I think it'd actually be easier than what we do now, because you wouldn't have to slavishly copy, all these bug reports just kind of vanish, right? Because it's not like, oh, he said the wrong thing by like 3 characters, now you got to go fix it. It's just like whatever you do, right? So I think it'd actually be easier, to create some custom zones and, have some stuff. And as long as you tune the items so they're not really like better than Valius, I think you're fine.
yeah, we'll see. One thing I do want to do that I've mentioned before, and this past Halloween event has really lit the fire, is do some more lower key stuff. Like, and I said this numerous times because it's kind of a classic example, but I would like to write a more automated event that fires off that does something like a orc invasion in Kelethin. Something low level players are going to get a kick out of, but a 60 isn't going to give really two shits about. But just use that as an example and just start doing more of that kind of stuff in various parts of the world.
I think it'd be totally cool. And you just add it to the zone and just fires like, once a week or something randomly.
Well, ideally, I'd want to have it such that like a staff or any guide can do it, but it would have a timeout so that it could only fire. You can only do it once every X duration. Um, but yeah, it's some ideas, and from a technical and code perspective, I know what I need to know to be able to write that. I just need to sit down and do it.
And Shodi, I mean, I would say, I think what's going to happen at some point is there's going to be a new server that's pure classic. The problem with Project 1990 is the timeline's been so off that, like, we just have millions of funky tunics and level 6 stuff.
We're so top heavy.
It's just kind of a problem at this point.
It is a problem, I think. Like, that's the problem. That's what I mean. I've had lots of conversations with lots of people about like raiding, for instance, and it's like, one thing that's been pointed out, which I wholeheartedly agree with, we have a mechanically classic server, but a decidedly not classic population. And it's really hard to make those two fit together. But so far, the server's not burned down. So, we're not doing it completely wrong.
I mean, I don't want to like go off on the raid topic too much.
Yeah, it's probably not a good.
I'll bid forever, so that's just going to be a problem. But
yeah,
I will say, once upon a time, a staff member mentioned the possibility of opening another classic server after everything was completely done and finished on this one so that we could do just that. Have an actual run through from launch through Velius that was completely timeline accurate without any dev work being required or what have you. Just straight through. And that's where all the talk and rumor circulation of P99 Green came from and the whole recycled server things.
Well, I mean, it doesn't make sense to do all the timeline stuff you've done, right? Unless you intend to do that.
I mean, in a perfect world, people would do all kinds of things, but it's just a matter of having time and want to do it.
I mean, you know, it's a free server, and is consistently amazing to me how much time people put into this project as a whole.
I question my life every day because of that exact thing.
Indeed.
I'm telling you, if that ceiling fan was a bit more sturdy, I'd be singing a different story right now.
I mean, you know, that's why you automate things a little more, right? Like that, you know,
that's
we're talking about.
That's exactly why I want to automate stuff more. Yes, I mean, the less touch, the better.
And you know, the automated system is also fair. You know, again, not to touch too much on the raid rules, but you know, the more automated you can make resolution of that stuff, the better.
Oh, and that's another interesting thing to point out. So I'm sure many people were well aware of the lore issue for rewards.
That's my fault, everybody. I'm real sorry about that. If you got affected by duplicate lore items on Halloween, you can blame the hell out of Sirken for that one. That is my bad.
There may have been a conversation between myself and Sirken when I was like, this is going to be a problem. And he was like, no, it's not.
I have this complex where I think I know better than everybody else. And so I just fucking do things like a goddamn idiot. And that's why I couldn't complain to anybody about being up till 7:30 in the morning that night dealing with the duplicate lore items, because that was my fault.
And I did not say I told you so that night. I wanted to really badly.
You could have. I'm glad you did.
I totally could have.
I would not have been thrilled about it.
But on the other side of that, I've already talked with one of the code devs, and in theory, he's on the case to get us something to prevent that from happening in the future. Like right now, when I'm writing these NPC scripts, we do not have any access or ability to query a player's inventory. We are going to be adding that. And so in the future, if there's lore items in the loot array, it'll just reiterate over the array, re-rolling until it hits a lore item, or either a lore item that you don't have or an item that's not lore. And there you go.
That would be so yeah. Here's my question, right? At least when I kind of like sometimes peruse the bug reports, it doesn't really seem like that much code development is going on. So maybe I'm just, you know, not seeing it. It's like the iceberg, you know, that floats beneath the water. But like, it seems like there have been a couple of what I would call pretty serious code issues that have not been fixed. Like, of course, hybrid defense is like the number one. But the other one that really annoys me is the first brood dragon fear. I don't know if you guys, like, we actually bug reported, we have some videos of, like, Santalak and Slandakar, and the way the Dragon Fear works on Project 1999 is extremely not classic. I'm just curious, like, because, I mean, I'd love to see some of these things fixed.
We unfortunately have very little visibility into that. Like, I only talked to one of the, like, we honestly have, like, maybe two full code developers, and I'm counting 3 people, 2 of them as half code developers. So like, there's not a lot of people behind it.
Okay.
So beyond that, I know a lot of other code changes that go in are like pathing. You know, that's the big one I've known recently. But if you look through the patch notes, anything from Talon or Rope Thunder would be like code modifications.
Interesting, because see, here's my thing. I hate Santalak. I hate that fuck, right? Because I don't want to put all my guys on Dragon Faction, you know? I want to get some giant armor. And, like, no one wants to kill anything on Dragon Faction because they're all afraid of Santalak, like gigantic pussies. And the problem with Santalak is he's way harder than he should be. And so no one kills him because you have to burn like 100k in clickies, and even then you can easily wipe. So we got to tune that guy down so that Dragon Faction isn't important, so we can kill stuff so Sakuragi can get his Warlord set of armor. Granted, that was somewhat self-centered.
I thought we weren't talking about raid stuff.
Talking about fashion question. Blue armor.
Blue armor. So, one of the things I was wanting to mention tonight too is like I'll be posting after the stream, but I actually ran through my logs and parsed out some interesting like numbers for the event itself.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah, I'm trying to get myself to a safe spot where I can look at the page and actually read from it. So, just since you're here and since you participated in it, Raev, can you want to take a guess? Just a guess at how many unique characters you think in total completed the event.
How many unique characters completed the event? Are we talking the 12 or the 16?
All combined, just summed. So whether they completed 2 or 16, 1 to 16, so not 0. Which there were some that completed with 0 hand-ins.
Because you could complete at any time?
You could, and some people rushed through the bracketed text. They completed early, and they were very sad that they were not able to complete the event. But it said so in the text.
That would be most of my group. I'm gonna guess about 500.
I already asked Sirken, and he guessed far lower than that. The actual number was 748.
Okay, I'm order of magnitude correct. My physics professor won't fire me.
Yeah, we had. Let's see, we had 297 total that handed in with all 16.
Oh wow! So a lot of people did get them all. I guess like you start to word starts to spread.
Oh, totally. Like we were watching the hand-ins. Every time somebody handed in at a given tier, we saw it, and it was really obvious when people started like talking to each other. But that's the fun of the event, right? Like if you're figuring out yourself, you're going to finish earlier, and if you're not, you'll probably hear from somebody else later. Another interesting tidbit here is, so we turned the event on. These times are Pacific. We turned it on at 5:10 Pacific time, and the first hand-in was only 15 minutes later, but they only handed in at tier 1, which means they would have found like 4 mobs at most. You, sir, do you know how long it took you to hand in?
Guess about 2 hours.
2.5 hours. So a lot of people were complaining about people handing in early and whatnot. So that's for everybody out there. The very first fall 16 hand-in wasn't for 2.5 hours after the event began.
I mean, it was 16 mobs, and you had to. One of them was an ode to switch the tiers. You had to wait for the boat.
I loved putting that one because I knew that was going to be. I knew that was going to be a fun thing, and it turned out that was exactly what happened, or at least for some people. Like I saw a lot of people commented how funny it was to see everybody waiting on the boat on both sides of OOT, all in illusions.
It was like the Dalius launch.
Yeah.
We actually had a problem because my freaking werewolf illusion was aggro the dwarves at the docks. And then my bard, of course, started singing, so I had to like kite them around while he camped.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I was a monk, but
not everybody was. We had some guys that death looped, and like they were bound in like North Freeport, and they got the werewolf illusion, and that just sucked for them. So I did my best. I'm pretty sure I got everybody rezzed, so hopefully that was okay. But as I saw them popping up, I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, I knew that was going to be trouble as soon as those fucking petitions started coming in.
But what do you mean? Does you see much, hear much? The times for all 16. What are you asking? Like how long the duration everybody took that handed in for the 16? I mean, he'll answer here in a little bit. I'll go down some of the other interesting stats. See, the last hand-in was at 5:38 a.m. the following day. So we actually had this event was live for those folks that were claiming it wasn't not up long enough. The event was live for 12 hours and 28 minutes. So If people think that's not long enough, that's too bad.
I mean, it's the longest any event on this server has ever been up ever.
I believe it.
I am just gonna blindly state it as fact.
Well, if I have if what I have planned happens, that will we'll break that record later. Just because I want to have an event that's up for a long time that does not. I mean, the rewards themselves may not be amazing, but doing the event may build to something greater that could be amazing.
Yeah, it's definitely that's what I'm saying. Like, it's definitely steps in the right direction. I mean, we were able to run an event for half a day, and that's. I mean, most of the events are like, oh shit, I broke my guy. Most of the events are either kill this thing and that's the end of the event, or find this mob or this thing and that's the end of the event, or here's the
Yeah,
first one to finish it, the event's over, he's the winner. Like, it's things like that. And so something like the scavenger hunt, which anyone can do and they can do it at their own pace, and it really doesn't affect their reward at all. Like, Raev can finish it in 2.5 hours, or someone else can finish it in 9 hours, and they're gonna get shots at the same bag of pixels, regardless. And so it was super like casual friendly. I know there's a lot of Europeans that were super unhappy, but I mean, you guys got to understand, we don't hate Europeans, but that was a goddamn Monday. Like, we had work and shit to do during the day. We can't just be running some event and then go to work and not be here. Like, people would have been death looping all day long. It would have been
yeah.
horrible.
Well, I think as Rogan, I think replied to one of the forum posts about it, and someone was complaining about timing, and he put it pretty clearly that, the timing of it is more dictated by myself and Sirken than anybody, because we're the ones that are putting it on, and so it's effectively going to just have to happen when we can make the most time to be there, and if it just so happens we can get as many other people in it as we can, great. I honestly didn't think this time frame was all that awful for Euros, but could have been better for sure.
Yeah,
They did get a
you didn't hear
they
me.
did get a
I'm
Euro
not
time
pushing a
zone
button.
repop, like prime time
Just sitting
repop,
here
when Rogan patched the
talking to
servers and prep
myself
for
like an
the
asshole.
event. So I mean,
That's
if
good.
they weren't there for the event, they still got some nice things with the repop, I suppose.
Honestly, I think if you want to talk like practicality, I do think the scavenger hunt had better rewards, items, loots, pixels,
Oh yeah,
checklists, whatever you want to call them. But the thing is, the boss did have a chance to give you something that doesn't drop anymore, and so that kind of makes it a big deal, I guess.
oh yeah. So,
Uh,
let me see. There's another number. I was
also
gonna say,
can't.
what's that?
I was gonna say, I also can't believe there were guilds who are like, well, I know this event will probably never happen again, but shit's in window in TOV, just like it is every week we've done it every week for the last like 15 months, and we're gonna do it every week for the next 15 months, but can't be bothered to leave TOV for this event.
I did notice that. I think I sent some tells to people too. I'm like, "What are you doing? You're not going to come and play in the event?"
There was one guild, I won't name any names because I don't want to throw the other guilds under the bus, but there was one guild I know where the leader was telling people that he was actually losing members to the event and having trouble in TOV.
I heard that too. I laughed.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
But yeah, I liked whoa, going way, way, way back. Like when you mentioned the book, also the interesting thing about that book is there was a lot more effort that I had to put into the formatting of that book than you would expect.
Talk about that, because when you were telling me, I thought the book was cool. I thought the book was really cool, and nobody or you, I don't know, one of you nerds told me a little bit about how you had to make that work so it didn't look like dog shit, pretty much.
Yes, it was. It was not. I was one that had to do it, because I think Nilbog was busy. He just pointed it out. He was like, "Come and look at this. It's fucked up." And I looked and I was like, "Oh, yep, that's fucked up. All right." Um, so the contents of the book exist as a a single cell in a database. Basically, the way it does the word wrap is one of two ways. Either you give it a really long line and it just wraps it however the hell it wants it, and that's what looks awful. Or you know it can take like the pages are a certain like number of characters wide, and so you force a new line after that amount of characters, which ended up being very difficult. Or it's not difficult, time consuming. And so I had
Hmm.
to go through the entire text, putting a special new line character in every so often, and then concatenating or merging it all into a single one, just hugely long line without actual new line characters in it. Give it to Nilbog, and then he would add it he would insert it or update it into the database. And it took us about 2 hours one night, back and forth, until we finally got the format the way that looked good on at least his client and my client. I don't remember what client he's rolling, but it's different than mine. And like I have just more or less basic titanium, and I think he might have a UI mod on his. And He was sending me screenshots. I was looking at what I had, looking at his screenshots. So yeah, it was not easy. But the nice thing, that was another one of the takeaways I had from last year, is the little items that the NPCs gave people last year were set to be temporary or no rent or maybe both. And so if people went link dead, they lost all those items. And so that was one thing I was not going to do this year. We were not going to have like potentially lost items like that. And so that's where the book is the book. The nice thing too about the book is it's kind of a little souvenir, I guess. I mean, sure, someone you might have your reward item, but now you also have the book. I don't know
Oh,
what
they
you can
don't
do with
lose
it.
the book at the end of the
They
event?
do not lose the book. The book, nope.
Nice.
It's no drop, but you can't lose it.
I bet you people destroyed it.
Oh, I'm sure many did. I could probably go query the items table and look at how many destroyed it, and I bet it would be a lot.
You know what we could do? Oh, I can't tell you on stream because it would actually ruin the surprise of doing it in game. But while I was looking up item ID numbers for things, I came across. Are you in game by chance?
I'm not.
All right, never mind. I came across a thing, and then I was like, why are there two of these? And then so I grabbed one of each and checked them out, and then I realized what it was, and I just fucking laughed so hard.
Oh, is it have to do with the April Fool's thing?
Yes, that's not nearly as subtle as you think it is, though. Just so you know.
He's quiet. I wonder if that means yes or
Oh,
no.
that means I'm not holding down control. That's what that means. Because I fucking think pushing to talk is just some of the dumbest shit. I feel like my voice should just be heard all the time and should not have barriers between my mouth and people's ears. I don't even remember what you asked me.
Oh,
That's why I was
I said
gibberishing on with rambles.
the item. What did it have something to do with the
Oh yeah, don't say it
April
again
Fool's Day?
because I
Oh,
was what I
okay,
actually said was that's not nearly as subtle as you think it is.
okay.
That's what I was gonna say.
People know that though. I've been told by so many people how much anger that caused them.
I know, but you know what? I was actually a player. I was one of those players who got
Were you
super
really?
excited. And even though I knew, like, in the back of my head, like, I was aware of a lot of things, and I was like, this is probably a fucking joke slash scam. And, and I fucking clicked it anyway.
Nice.
So yeah, but oh fuck, I hit a zone by accident. That's the worst. But
I really hate that too. Like whenever you're on the GM characters, some of the heading you get when you land is like it'll have you like facing the zone out of a zone, and then you have to like stop, reorient yourself, or you're gonna like hit W and just zone right out of the zone you just went into. Unrest is the big one that I remember. Like it freaking sucks.
you know what? It does sucks. Actually, Unrest is a lot of fun. I don't know how you have trouble in Unrest.
Or no. Like as the GM character, like the heading you get when you zone in is makes it really
Oh, you
counterintuitive.
mean you're turned around?
Yes, like because you're in that
Yes.
like that tunnel that's
Yes.
the entrance to Unrest, and you don't know which side is the zone and which side is the actual zone,
I'll tell you
like the
right
zone line.
now, it always is pointing you towards the exit because it hates us.
That's probably okay. I can see that.
I literally always have to turn around or I run towards the exit.
So, trying to think of anything particularly of interest that we haven't talked about with the event, with regard to the event, but there hasn't been a whole lot of
Did you
questions
talk
coming in.
about how it is? Oh, yeah. Hey, guys in chat, if you have questions for anyone, me, Braknar, Raev, do an at me, Braknar, or Raev, and one of us will see it, and then we'll answer your questions. And if you have other questions, like, I don't care, you can ask those too. Did you talk about how the ads were supposed to work, or are we not?
Oh, oh, we can. I won't talk about the ones we took out, uh, because we might want to do that again sometime if I can get the code working. Oh, so somebody asked, are we doing the raffle? Are we doing that here tonight? Or
No.
okay,
Are you talking about for
well
the
there.
bosses?
I'm assuming that's what he's asking about.
No, I don't think so.
Um,
I've literally, I've got nothing ready for that. Not even
uh,
joking. I've been fucking just things. I'm gonna say I've been sick.
yeah.
I've been sick. I've been sick all week. Like at least the last week and a half. I've been fucking very sick, and so I haven't had time to deal with that. What's going on in Temple of Vishon, Raev? Why is your guild there?
Apparently Jambalaya got FC on Lady Mirna.
Well, that's exciting.
God, there was something actually I just thought. Oh, so the NPCs, this part of the script that I will talk about.
Yes.
So, so yeah, as people probably saw or noticed, the boss did certain things as his health dropped, and so I believe the first thing he did was spawned like skeleton archers and just random sort of BS ads. But he spawned them at a special at a decent distance from himself that we expected that would like roughly hit where healers and support would be. So that was done with intent. And then they also were set to follow him, which that's another thing I'm going to do in the future is any more bosses I make will be perma rooted because the friggin' people, the creative players that were kept kiting him around North Carolina was annoying. Some people may have noticed he suddenly reset on them as they were kiting him around. Yeah, that was me following him around and stopping that because that was dumb.
Hacks.
Yeah. um, Another thing I was going to mention too about like the desyncs. One of the things that I've decided for sure, and I've already run this by Robot Rogue and Nilbog, and we're all on board for it. Future boss fights. Part of the boss's spawn script is going to be to depop the entire zone, so that it only has to track players and the encounter itself. So hopefully that will significantly mitigate the desync problems we had. In hindsight, North Carolina probably was not the best choice because it is a large zone and has lots and lots of NPCs roaming around. And that's what tends to cause the desync, because the server's got to sit there and keep track of all of those NPCs and where they're going and what they're doing. And so, you know, lesson learned. Um, so yeah, the boss he'd spawn the kind of the BS ads, the skeletons and the werewolves and everything, and then I think at 40%, I can't remember the percent off the top of my head. I'm not looking at the code at the moment, but so then he would spawn his healers, and the whole point of them was to just they just kept casting complete heal on the boss. Um, and we added actually Sirken added some of some of the things that the ads would say, and we tried to make it pretty clear that the healing ads were going to be healing. So you're probably going to want to kill them first, and then at the very end, I think at 10% is when the cultists just started spawning in. Um, I ended up halving the amount of cultists right before we went live with the event, and in hindsight, I'm kind of glad I did. Oh, that was another interesting thing. So the cultists, this cultist spawn was variable. It took the amount of people on the boss's hate list and divided it by 4, and then floored that function. And so that's how many people, that's how many cultists would spawn. Originally, we were going to do hate list divided by two, and in hindsight, I'm really glad we did not do that, because that almost assuredly would have completely thrashed North Karana as people were killing him, because 260 on the hate list, that's a lot of, that's 130 mobs that would have been spawned. I think we had them spaced out so they wouldn't just come in at once, but still adding 130 extra mobs to that mess would have just been a bad thing.
I mean, yes, all right, fine. I won't make a smart ass comment. Yes, that would have been a bad thing.
So, so yeah, that was the boss script more or less. And like I mentioned, Nilbog definitely, he came in, he was the relief there for me. Like we were getting down to the wire, and last year I wanted to have a boss fight in the event. We did not, and I really wanted to do it again this year. And I asked him, like, I begged him for some of his times, for him to put together a boss event for us, and he certainly did. I made some small changes and additions to it, but the vast majority of it was just out of his brain. So the nice thing though is that it gave me a little more visibility into some of the, because I'd never written a boss encounter or done much with like actually fighting NPCs, like writing the script side of it, and so now I've got some nice patterns and some ideas to go off of for future events. So yeah, it was. I like I said too, it was a hell of a lot of fun. Sirken can probably attest to that. Um, because like he heard me on comms, like it was me, him, and Rogan on me, Sirken and Rogan on comms, and like when people were finding things, I'm like, oh look, he found it. Oh look, holy shit, he found it. Like as we see people were starting to find things and figure it out. Like I had a hell of a lot of fun just watching that part of it too. I mean, would I have liked to participate in it as a player? Absolutely. But, obviously I wouldn't have gotten anything out of it because I knew the answers. So I took the enjoyment where I could, which was watching other folks work their way through it.
Well, that's another thing. We were actually limited on who all could help because I believe all the guides still have active player accounts that do play, and so we couldn't very well give them information about the event or let them help with part of the event that would give them information that would give them a leg up on players if they wanted to jump in there.
Yeah, in fact,
Are you kidding me right now?
Oh, sorry. I hit the. I let go of my control key. I gave the player, or told all the guides that they had to say ahead of time whether they were going to be on their guide or their player, and I was like serious. I was like, guys, you can't be on both. Because one of the main way we were, I've said before, I had the NPCs logging things, and basically the way they were logging it is they were just saying it over the GM chat, in-game GM chat, and so that would have been a good, pretty significant spoiler if the guides had their guide character and their player character on. They would have seen various things getting said through the GM chat that would have like told them exactly what was going on or exactly what they needed to do. Which I'm actually disappointed. None of our guides actually participated. They didn't actually play in the event at all. I think we just kind of got unlucky. One of them was working. Two of them were out of town and away from away from home, and I think the other one may be stuck playing WoW right now. I really don't know.
Braknar, did you see the question about any other holiday events planned for the future? Love the Halloween one from author
Oh,
Christopher.
I certainly did not. Arthur Christopher. I think we lurked on his stream a little. Yes, definitely more
We
events planned.
actually were watching. That is the stream we were watching during the event.
So yeah, more. I mean, in a perfect world, I would say absolutely we'll have one over the holiday season. But in reality, will I get time? I don't know.
We would like to. We would very
We would.
much like to. Is the answer he's trying to give you?
Yes, I will try. I can also. I will definitively say it won't be as like. It won't be as like epic and large as this event for sure. It's just not. I mean, I just don't. I do not have the time to put together something like this again. Yeah, between now and the end of December. But I do plan to do something. Um, like I mentioned, I kind of alluded to it earlier. Something that may last a little bit more longer than a night, like maybe a week. And by participating in it and completing it, that may build to something that might happen at the end of that week. Maybe, maybe not. And so then we would still have one. We Anyway, that's all I'll say.
Good job.
I think I stopped too late, but still.
No, no, I think you're good. I was waiting to pull the plug on your mic. I feel like you did all right. This nerd's got a question when I'm not streaming. Crimson wants to know on Halloween night at the NK fight. I thought every single person who was engaged on, I'm assuming the boss mob, is going to get a reward. Is this true? So if you don't want to hit that, I could probably hit that.
I no, I can't for sure. It's unfortunately not like we can't give stuff for everybody. I believe the plan.
Because tell them why. Tell them how many people are on just one of those lists.
I think 260.
Like we can't give any kind of meaningful reward out if we're going to give out 260 of them.
Yes. So I believe what's going to happen, and this is above my non-existent pay grade. Like it's more of a question between Rogan and Sirken. I have a little bit of input, but it's more their show than mine, and as far as the loot is concerned for the bosses. But I believe they're going to be choosing a small set of people randomly from each boss encounter, and they'll get something pretty cool.
So yeah, we're working on that.
That sound about right?
Yeah, no. Yeah, no, it sounds good. Sounds good. What is this? Unlike other haste items, the robot epic doesn't decrease backstab timer, so rogues use other haste items. Not sure if you're the person to ask, but is this going to be fixed? I am not the person to ask. But if you think that you found a bug, you should head over to www.project1999.com and find the bugs forum, sub forum,
Yep,
whatever. You should go in there and you should make a note, and the devs will definitely check it out.
Yeah, as weird as it sounds, like we even do like I mean I get on very rare occasions we can PM devs and get them to do things, but at the end of the day, even Sirkin and myself, if we encounter a bug, the best thing for us to do is to freaking post in there just the same,
I make bug
because they
thread
really like the
reports.
devs, they really do read those. So it's not just us saying put your bug in this bit bucket that never gets looked at. Like people are really looking there.
The only difference is I can actually link devs to my bug thread reports.
That's true. So Tracer HD says yes. Some question before that he thinks you missed.
Well, then you should re-ask it because I didn't see it. And Cap5, thank you for kissing my ass. I need a little of that right now. Fucking fuck.
Oh, and I'll talk briefly about Red. So we did run this on Red. What we did not, well, it's not necessarily we did not. So Red never made it to the point of spawning a boss. That's just kind of that's the nature of the beast. Um, in hindsight, perhaps maybe I should. Well, okay. If I do another building thing like this, I will be adding separate build thresholds for blue or red. Pretty sure the scripts are aware there is a variable in there. I'm pretty sure I can key off of, um, so that the scripts will still be generalized, so they can be used on both red and blue without modification. But that's just an FYI. So I know some guys on red were just like, "WTF? There was a boss. What do you mean?" And that's why, is because we had set thresholds for the boss to spawn. The red server just
Right.
never made it there.
Yeah. Yeah, I know we actually almost adjusted the threshold on blue just because we didn't know if some of the bigger guilds were going to leave TOV at all to participate, and when we set those thresholds, we had accounted on those numbers partaking.
Yeah, but like going back to what I mentioned earlier, like how I'd written a controller in
Hold
this
on,
year.
can I?
Oh, go ahead.
Never mind. Go ahead.
So I'd written this controller in this year, and so we did, like Sirkin and I did have the capability to insta spawn the bosses, but red was so far from the threshold that even I think had we come up with a threshold, I really still don't think they would have actually hit it. There wasn't nearly. I mean, just because I've got the numbers in front of me. So red only had 98 total completions, which actually I guess isn't bad. They had 71 people that did it with all 16, so they had a much higher percentage that found on all 16. So I imagine they may have, I don't know. I mean, they may have gotten the information from people on blue, or they may have just been really sharp and figured it out themselves. Probably a little bit of both. But that's one thing to mention. That so I haven't actually mentioned it here, and it's all obvious. As I said before, will be in a post. But landfill on red does warrant some sort of at least mention because he was the first on red to turn in with all 16.
Well, Landfill from Red Server, if you're listening, congratulations to you, sir. You were the first person to finish all 16 on Red, and that makes you special this month.
But I also will say on red that it was also fun to watch. There was so much yellow text during the event. So I'd like to think that the red server population got some fun out of the PvP that was had from the event. Um, I don't know. I haven't actually talked to many folks on red about the event at all, but I can definitely say there was a hell of a lot more yellow text going on during it.
Yeah, I mean that's you're gonna get that with Red Server though. You get a lot of people in
Yeah,
one place. There's gonna be PvP, and I mean I'd say most of them like that excites the hell out. Like they're probably more excited about the PvP that's gonna happen near and around the event than the actual event itself.
I believe it. And that's fine, Sorry, I seem to be keying up. I set to my thing to voice activated, and I'm trying to like not breathe in the microphone, but I don't know how successful I'm being.
I'm not hearing you breathe. You're good. I was dealing with a thing. Um, yeah, I don't have much else actually. That's I actually have to. I'm gonna get another drink, and I don't know if there's anything else that you wanted to talk about or not.
Do you
But
think it's out of the question if I like actually read like I kind of wanted to read down what was in the tier 4 loot table because a lot of people were whining about, oh, the event's not even worth doing anymore, and I kind of want to
oh yeah,
kind of prove
feel free
them
to
wrong.
rattle that off. My other computers just started making a shit ton of noise in the other room, so I have to deal with that.
Okay, so while he's dealing with that, so yeah, so for those folks, I know I saw a lot of people that were very upset that we kick. So I'll talk for a couple things. Number one, why did we kick down the loot tiers? I don't have those numbers handy as far as like how many tier 5 loots went out before we kicked it down, but just watching as it streamed by, there was a lot. And the call was made at the time. We were like, all right, this tier 5 loots are pretty freaking good. At this point, we feel like we had rewarded. Oh, sure, yeah, actually, yeah, I can totally give the tier 5 loot list too. I mean, why not? Um, we just saw this stuff flying out the door. And we're like, all right, this is getting a little too much. So we had to kick it down. Case in point. So there's nearly 300 people that did all 16. I don't think any of us really wanted to be able to have 300 tier 5 loose rolling out the door. Um, so I pull up the code now. So yeah, going down the tier 5 list, there is the Fingerbone Hoop, Circlet of Shadow, so that's the pre-nerf, Holgresh Elder Beads, Reaper's Ring, White Dragon Tooth, the Cano Whoop-Ass, and the Rubicite Breastplate. Of note in that loot array, everything was of equal chance to come up on the roll except the Holgresh beads, which were going to come up about, I think, roughly 10% of you had a 10% chance to get the Holgresh beads if you got into tier 5. Um, so that's the tier 5 loot list. Tier 4 was Rubicite Greaves, Rubicite Helm, Bracer of the Hidden, Goblin Kazooie Ring, Ring of the Ancients, Bag of the Tinkerers, and Pegasus Feather Cloak. So, I mean, those items are still nothing to shake a stick at. They're roughly plat valued, I think. I mean, so the ones that can be sold, you know, probably like I think it's like 7K is the going rate for the J Boots MQ, and then you got the Goblin Ring, which is probably around that price as well. Tink Bag about 7 to 10K. So yeah, the people that claimed tier 4 was worthless and it's not worth doing, kind of full of it because the tier 4 loot was actually still some pretty nice stuff. So yeah, and the other tiers were just we what we ended up doing is just try to spot guess, spot checking, and spacing them out by rough plat value ish. I mean, some of the items we gave out were no drop, so there's not really a plat value for them. But that was one of the key criteria we tried to to set up. Sirken actually did the loot tables, and that's why he said he was to blame, because the original loot tables I'd come up with were not very Halloween themed at all, but they were all not lore items. Um, because I knew of the lore issue. I knew from last year we had lots of problems last year with people rolled lore items, and the loot array last year was much larger. Oh, I just saw Arthur Christopher's question. I answered that kind of earlier, in regards to like what we would do different with loot, and the big one is that there is currently no way for the NPCs to know that an item is in a given player's inventory. So like, there's no way to do a lore check, and hopefully by the time I do another event, we're going to have that ability, and so we'll be able to do to have the NPC before it hands you a reward check to see if you have that lore item, and if you do, obviously re-roll. Other than that, I think the loot was great. What I will do again in the future, however, is likely have some sort of a maximum counter on the top tier loot. So I know people are going to get upset about that, but we have to do it somewhere. Either there's a counter of the top tier loot, or um, you can't always, like, if you do the full completion, you're not guaranteed to roll in that top tier. So I mean, one of those two things has to happen. um, so like, if you completed the event, you're not always going to get out of the tier 5 table. Like, you have to pass one roll to get into tier 5 table, and then you get another roll to choose from that table. So any rate, in the future, if we do have loot kickdowns like we had, it won't be broadcast. It'll just happen automatically in the scripts. And are you back, Sirkin, or are
Yeah,
you
I'm
still?
back. I like that actually. I mean, anything that's randomized and taken out of human control, I think is much better.
Oh yeah. I mean, although I did have some people tell me that, like, that had we not broadcast that the loot was getting kicked down, they probably would have ended up in the lower tier, because they were like helping friends or guildies, and when that announcement went out, they were like, hold on, let me go complete, and so they went and they did their completion and then came back to help people.
Well, you live,
Uh,
you learn.
yeah. So the Shadowhaven Casino. I'm not sure what the Shadowhaven Casino is exactly. If is that from like a
It's
server called
Luckland.
Shadowhaven? Oh, the
Shadowhaven's a
Luckland.
Luckland zone. There was a NPC type casino there where you could win things.
So remember, EQMU is all reverse engineered, so we don't just like get that. Um, Basically, what needs to happen is, like, there's actually, so the NPC scripts. I mean, this isn't that secret. So the NPC scripts are written in Perl. The main server code is C. You have to set up functions, a very succinct set of functions available to you in the Perl context that do something in the C code. And so we just basically don't have anything right at the moment that even reads into the C code. Um, and if it's, yeah, and that's another thing Dalton just mentioned. Don't know if it's an EQEMU stock. P99 is so divergent from EQEMU stock right now that I would not be surprised if it's in stock, but it may not be portable or copy pastable into P99 code, because things are just so different.
Yeah.
I see more questions.
You should field those questions.
All right. Well, I feel bad. Rave, are you? I feel like I've been monopolizing the time. Is Rave still here? He may not be, or he's forgetting to push his push to talk.
He might have
Uh,
bailed. He might have
Funny
been like,
thing,
this Braknar guy is just too much.
I know, right? So Vixgar said Pearl. Sorry. Humorously enough, I actually, before coming with P99, I've actually had jobs where I mostly wrote Pearl. Um, so yeah, Pearl actually is not too bad for me, but I definitely know that some people do have problems with it. He is raiding a dragon, so that's why Rave is no longer talking.
Gotcha,
Um,
gotcha.
oh, geez, let's see.
All
I'm
right,
trying to.
hold on.
Yeah,
I'm
you
gonna
go ahead.
speed round because we're just about out of time this evening.
Okay.
Dude says, author Christopher, you better send me a private message on the forums. But he says makes it run as a race. Gives it a bit more space to those who show up early. I know you guys do this at your own time, but was told to ask if there's a chance to a different event at different times for those who live in other places and couldn't make it this time around. So here's the thing. We kind of touched on this earlier, so you're going to get the speed answer. We have jobs and shit and lives, and some of us have families and some of us have kids. And so when Halloween falls on a Monday night, that means people are going to have to go to work. People are going to come home. Some people have to take their kids out trick or treating, and then they do P99 shit. And so if it was on a Saturday, it would have been different. We would have started it earlier probably, but there was literally nothing we could do about it being on a Monday night. We try to be as courteous as we can to our European, Australian, Asian friends, but the server and the server staff is primarily based in North America. So, like, when you're signed up to play on a game that's based in North America, you should expect most of the things going on to be based around North American time. The end. Sirken wants to know, during the event, Rogue announced 5 legacy items per boss. Is that still the current decision? Do winners get to choose from a list? Blah, 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 blah. Players definitely won't be choosing from a list. There's going to be randomized winners. I don't know exactly how many, but sure. Why can't you talk to 87 people simultaneously? Because I'm dumb. Dude wants to know. Sorry if it's already been asked. Haven't been on thing long. Any info on Discord? Actually, nope. No info. Any thoughts from Crimson? He wants to know about happened to P99 auctions. Somebody fucked it and it went down. What about Red? What about Red? Thanks
I
for
know, right?
putting it
That's what I
on
said.
dudes. Who's Rope Thunder? He's a dev. Hey, Vayrun. Boom, done.
I think you left a let up on your control key.
Well, that sucks for you, but for them, they heard it. I don't need to do that.
Okay.
So yeah, on that fine note, say goodbye to these people.
How does a player? Hold on 1 second. How does a player get who is on your shit list get off says shit list? I don't think I have a
They
whole lot of
don't.
people. Well,
They
they
don't.
probably don't.
If you get on my shit list, they don't. And if you get on his, then you get on mine. So you don't. Don't get on shit lists. Say goodbye to these people.
Yep. All right, folks. Take care. And if you have any specific feedback about the event, feel free to PM me on the forums. I'd love to hear it.
You know what? So would I, but don't send me messages. I would rather just hear about it from Braknar after he filters out the garbage ones. Um, yeah, thanks everybody for joining and hanging out and listening. If you missed things and you wish you hadn't, that's okay, because you can check those things out by going to youtube.com/SirkenP99. It's got all the things. And on that fine note, I will talk to you guys next time. Goodbye, have fun, good night.